Although, it's been about 22 years now since I started dreading. I started back in Vermont in 92. I went to the Vermont Rainbow Gathering, and I traded for a couple of beads and stuck them in the back of my hair. My hair was pretty short at the time. It was about like this long on top, a little longer in the back. And then I was doing like a silent meditation for 3 days, like in a peyote teepee. And by the 4th of July, when like the entire gathering was in silence, the back had already started dreading. So then I went back to Philly and started a new job, and the rest of it just, the top started dreading when I grew up a little longer, which probably a couple months later. It dreaded really fast. I just did nothing to it. I never palm rolled, I never backcombed or did nothing, just let dread. And it's been 22 years now, and I'll try to get the medical bits. Definitely, it's about a foot past my toes at this point. So, see, it's definitely gotten quite a bit longer. About 4 years ago, 4 or 5, I stopped separating them. That's all I ever did to them, was just separate them, so that a lot of them would start to combine and get a little thicker. Because what happened was, like the dragging on the ground, they've been dragging on the ground for 4 or 5 years now. And so the ends started wearing down a little bit from just getting stepped on and caught in things and everything like that. So I wanted to let it all get a little thicker. So when the part that's like, you know, at my chest now, when that reaches the ground, it'll be a lot stronger. I started, originally I washed with Dr. Bronner's, like diluted like 12 times more water than soap. But then I started using a baking soda recipe, which is not really a wash, it's more of a soap. It's like a deep clean. And that is really good for, especially for new dreads, especially if you're going natural, because you don't have to scrub or anything, so you're not like undoing any knots. Just pour it on, soak for 10 minutes and rinse it off, and that's all it takes. It gets super clean. But then I found like these bar soaps from dreadlocksshampoo.com, which are the best. They have like this microfine clay in them that just really deep cleans everything really well. And they have beer in them that like helps condition, and it helps with so that they're really good, pure, all-natural soap. But the beer makes it work in hard water, which like a lot of the more natural dreadlock shampoos don't work in hard water. So this stuff is like the best stuff I've ever used. And anyways, a lot of people use some pretty crazy methods to get dreads. Like using wax just makes no sense at all, because all it does is it glues the hair together to make it look dreaded, but it prevents the movement that's needed to make it actually dread. And that's really what dreads need, is just to be free to move and knot up. You know, and the wind will knot your hair up, you know, if you let it. And that's all you need. You don't need like to use brute force dreading. And you know, it usually happens a lot quicker than you would expect it to. I mean, I've seen natural dreads form in hours, like overnight. More typical is a couple weeks. The average is a couple months. It does take a couple months for most people. But you know, it does happen pretty quickly in general. Anyways, some of these brute force methods like crochet, you're jabbing a needle through your dread, which is pretty solid, you know, over and over and over and over and over for years, and you're just breaking hairs and weakening your dreads, you know. And you know, they will get some loose hairs on them. That's normal, especially when they're clean. You know, you get little fuzzies. You know, but when you're poking holes, you're making more fuzzies. So you're making the need to poke more holes. You know, because you're just constantly breaking hairs, and those hairs are going to be popping up all over the place. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Johnny Green's videos, but in one of his videos, he takes this harpoon-like tool that's like the thickness of a pencil practically, and threads it all the way down through a dread, like from the root to the tip, or from the tip to the root, and grabs another dread and pulls it up inside the dread. And both dreads were nearly the same size. The one was maybe a little smaller, but you know, like I can't fit a hair through here, you know, because that's the packed, you know. The proof that his are not even dreaded is the fact that you can fit another dread inside that dread. You know, all the wax, what it does is like it holds your hair in place and hardens. So like your dread just, it seems to mature, but it doesn't actually mature. It just looks mature. But you know, you never really get any more knots than you had on day one. I didn't really want to get into all that kind of stuff, but I just want to say, if you're gonna dread, you know, like try the natural way first. A lot of the more harmful ways, they're just not worth it. And like you know, a lot of like African Americans will like use twisting, which it's a good method to start, but not to maintain. You know, because what happens is like people will keep twisting and twisting, and you're pulling the hair from a bigger area into a smaller and smaller dread, and you're making the roots very, very thin, and then they break, and then you get traction alopecia. They tell you that look with like all the baldness around the dreads is a tidy look, but really that is a disease called traction alopecia, which will get more and more progressive over the years until like the crown of your head is bald. And I've seen people lose almost all their hair, like 3/4 of their dreads. And, you know, just a big bald spot that takes like a long time to recover from. You know, the same as with like interlocking or anything that tightens up the roots more than they need to be tight. But a lot, they try to sell you on the idea that like, it's kind of crazy to think about, like, you won't get a job if you don't have your dreads super tidy, right? And people start, first they're worried that if they get dreads, they're not going to get a job. Then they find out, okay, I can get a job with dreads, but I have to make sure I don't have any loose hairs. So which is it? Are they worried about the dreads or the loose hairs? Because you had loose hairs all your life. Nobody who doesn't care about your dreads is going to care about the loose hairs. You know, it's just crazy to think that. But the other thing is, you have really one legal defense for your dreads, and that is that they are for spiritual purpose. But you screw yourself out of that if you maintain your dreads. You know, because you know, spiritual dreads are supposed to be just let nature take its course and let it happen. So I mean, that's your one legal defense. So once you do maintain to please a boss that probably would never say anything in the first place, then you have no more legal defense, and they can say, okay, well, enough is enough, cut them off instead, or cover them up, or hide them, or whatever. You know, they just use like fear tactics, and I've had like locticians come up to me on the street, you know, and anybody with dreads has this happen. Locticians will come up to you and say, I can fix your dreads. And I'm looking at it, it's like, what's wrong with them? You know? They've been fine for like 22 years now, and everybody I've ever met says that they're the most beautiful dress they've ever seen. So what's wrong with them? Well, we could tidy them up. And it's like, what, like remove all personality so that they all look identical with like no distinction at all. Because, you know, they'll make every dread look exactly the same. You know, and that destroys all the fun of it. Because, I mean, dreads are constantly changing. I mean, you'll find new things happen, even after years. You find new things happening all the time. You know, new dreads forming, like this one up here. You know, a bunch of baby dreads forming. You know, it's part of the fun of it is just watching them develop and like grow and like, you know, they're like children. They develop their own personalities. They misbehave sometimes, you know, and you get to love every one of them instead of us having each one be identical, so you don't know, you know, which one's your favorite. You know, I don't know. I just like the organic way they form. You know, I mean, like some do form flat, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's just how they form. I mean, it's like basically like the two things that really form dread is movement and compression. So that's living, going out and doing what you do, and sleeping. You know, you lay down and you're compressing them. You know, that's all that dreads really need, is just to go about living your life and letting it happen. And it's an amazing journey. And I wouldn't change a thing.